And welcome to our live episode of Live, Laugh, Shut the Fuck Up and Listen. I am your co-host, Katie L. Eves, founder and chief owl at Owl Professional Coaching and Podcast, and your strategic partner for all solutions in life and leadership.
And I'm Marissa Senzaki, your holistic career coach and startup consultant who brings the humanity back to human resources.
Yes, we are two humans that bring a lot of humanity to tech, but not so much the actual tech knowledge. As we struggle to go live today, we're a little bit late. But that's all right, because in today's episode, girls rule the world. And if Barbie was in charge, she would know this moment is exactly what it needs to be.
So we both recently saw the Barbie movie. Katie, what were your initial thoughts going into it and coming out of it?
So I Barbie movied it up with a group of women I've never met before. The one woman that invited me, she got sick last minute, so I took her place, I guess. And I really went in just excited to see what's all the hoopla about. We love a good controversy. And what really spoke to me, of course, is going to be music. I have been hearing great things about the soundtrack. And the song that Barbie sings when she's leaving Barbie Land, it's part of the process of singing it, really resonated. It's a song about going to all these different places to find ourselves, going to the mountains, going to the doctors, getting our PhD. And the line in there of what you've really given me is to not take myself so seriously is something that I bring to all of my coaching engagements for people. We take life so seriously, just like Ken did with his beach.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on it?
So I kind of went in with no expectations. I really had only started to see things pop up on YouTube or Instagram, mostly from men who were upset about the message it was teaching. So I was a little bit curious, but like most of the women that I had talked to had really loved the movie. I actually hadn't been in a movie theater, I want to say, in like 4 or 5 years. I don't even remember the last movie I went to see. So it was just an excuse to get out, go to the theater, have some fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it had messages that could apply to any gender. It wasn't just some woman empowerment movie that tried to make men look stupid or put men down to raise someone else up. I think there were messages for everyone within the movie. And I think my biggest message takeaway from that would probably be for people to find their own purpose in life outside of who they are in relation to other people.
Finding your purpose in life outside of other people. And that's really what Barbie ends up doing, I suppose, in the movie. If you're listening and you're like, I don't want spoiler alerts, I don't feel like it's really one of those types of movies, but I will leave that punchline out for you. I do appreciate the line when she says, this is Barbie's dream house, not Ken and Barbie's dream house. And I think for any couple that's cohabitated, you do start to realize, man, it was really nice when I had my own dream house. When you think of carving your own dream, even this idea of playing with Barbies can be a very archaic idea for some people. What was your kind of take on that?
I don't think I ever stopped to really examine how Barbie was different in a positive way. I've always just thought about, like we played with these dolls that had big breasts and tiny waists, and that I think they've proven if it was real proportions in real life, it was something crazy. Like she wouldn't even be able to stand upright. But I never thought about the fact that, okay, this is maybe the first doll we've had where it's a grown woman and we're kind of playing future vision. What is this grown-up lifestyle that we want, rather than being put into this role of caretaker where I have a baby and I'm going to pretend I'm taking care of a baby. Because everything else we played with as little girls was, I'm the housewife, I'm cooking, I'm the mother, I'm a nurse.
Yeah,
It was
say
kind
it
of
like that,
positioning.
but when I remember those roles, I just remember I was always in charge, right? If I'm the mom, I'm telling people what to do. If I'm the nurse, I'm healing you. You're the one
Uh-huh.
that's sick. I think I appreciated the reframe of this idea that, right, that we aren't just putting ourselves in boxes so much as being able to try on different fun things, but all of those common threads are that we're the one in charge. Right. When I played with Barbies, Ken was never the one that said, hey, this is what we're doing. I don't know how your little scenes played out when you played with Barbies, but I think they really did capture that for girls. Is that all of our interactions and all of the things we did with Barbies, whether we were like our parents' generation that just had the one Barbie and all the outfits, or like my generation that had all the Barbies, which then we just had a bunch of fights in between the Barbies. Like life imitates art, I think. But Ken was never calling the shots. I don't remember Ken having a job when I played Barbies.
Mm. That that's why his job was just beach in the movie.
That's his, it is his job. And
Yeah.
what I appreciated about it is oftentimes, we can look at stereotypes for women and we can blame the patriarchy and we can blame and like make ourselves accidentally victims. What I appreciated was seeing how ridiculous that we can look if we look at it through the eyes of Mr. Beach. Of
Mhm.
my day depends on happiness if Barbie says hello to me, where Barbie's idea of happiness was very independent from anyone other than herself. It's her dream, it's her life, and she's living it. And so, back to your point, Marissa, of outside of everyone else, that happiness is something that no one can take away from Barbie.
And do you think she had to leave Barbie Land to discover that?
No, I think that the writers decided this was how it was going to go, and that's the way they made it. I don't. I still scratch my head at how, did we really decide that we were going to leave the land of women in charge and decide that we wanted to go live in that land of the patriarchy and what have you? I have questions about that decision Barbie made, but I think the point was that it was so independently hers. No one
Mhm.
else would have made that choice for her, and she was told this is her choice. And I wonder for you, Marissa, how many choices or decisions did you make that weren't really your choice? They were someone else's dream.
Right. And that's the theme that's been coming up for me this week as I'm talking to different people is this idea placed upon them of, well, this is what you have to choose from within this world that you've grown up in. But what if you dreamed larger? Um, and then other clients who are just telling me, like, I work in tech and I'm in San Francisco. Therefore, this is how I'm supposed to live my life. And this is the jobs that I'm supposed to be applying to because that's what I know. Versus there's this calling inside me to do something that I know is greater and more aligned with what I'm envisioning. But I'm scared to step outside that box of what I've been told to stand in, like Barbie in her little box that she comes in.
Yeah, I think of that as the bubble. Like we all live in a Barbie world bubble,
Hmm.
right? Wherever your environment is, like you're only really truly, even if we're on Zoom and all the meetings and stuff, like this is your bubble that you're interacting with. This is what sort of sets your norm. So you're able to come back and see that your norm is taken away. I think I see that a lot right now in corporate and reorgs, like that Barbie bubble is bursting. Things are shifting and it's uncomfortable for
Hmm.
people. And the other thing that stood out to me about the movie was, the parties that she has. And I laughed. I'm like, man, people follow me around to write Barbie movie because when I host parties, my name tags would say Marissa and then it would say Marissa's boyfriend. Like that's how I've always hosted parties. It's like, this is for the women. The men are also here. And men also might feel that way sometimes. So it was nice to see Ken's little perspective there. I say little, these are Barbie's perspectives. But seeing his perspective of being the afterthought, there are a lot of
Hmm.
things that we do as women that we don't quite recognize. We do have a lot more autonomy and we do sort of run the show a little bit more than we'd like to give ourselves credit for, even.
Hmm. How do you feel that shows up for you in your life? Where do you have the autonomy?
Well, like I said, in my Barbie dream house, I very much was like Barbie, where I'm like, well, I didn't put, Ken into this consideration. I think
Mhm.
moving in was a fun challenge of looking at allowing Ken to have his space, but also regulating him to like certain areas. I think we do this as women. We don't think about that. We're so focused on this larger picture and like where we don't have. And I tell my clients all the time, where there is abundance, we find lack. And,
Mm.
if I eat 3 meals a day, if I've skipped 2, I'm going to feel starving. If I only get 1, I'm feeling grateful for the meal that I've had. And so I create a lot of autonomy in my life. I've also, we talked about the song that Ken's theme song that he has in there of being pushed around. I think that's something that I've also definitely experienced. And so part of that is Barbie's dream of choosing her own outfits and decorating her own space. Like, I've got the pink everywhere. So I'm clearly doing something right. I have pink curtains in my bedroom. So poor Ken doesn't get his horses. Mm. That was something else I really enjoyed as well. The joke of Ken thinking that the patriarchy had something to do with ponies, and that's why he was interested in it. Sometimes I wonder, do we think these weird made up words and these made up structures, are we looking, what we look for, we find. We get a brand new car, we see it everywhere. And perhaps this patriarchy that some are holding on to is really the Trojan horse that they just want to play with, and they don't quite realize.
Yeah, the the patriarchy was this vision that he had that he couldn't quite describe. And he latched onto this idea of cowboys, horses, and like this was this lifestyle that was going to be somehow great and solve all his problems.
And so back to you, finding out your purpose, you're living your dream in your life of oftentimes what we think it's going to be is not what it actually is. And my favorite place to look at where people dreamed is as a kid. What were those dreams? What was it that
Mhm.
you wanted to do? And this construct that we create with words is the only thing that's really holding us back.
Tell me more about words being limiting.
Well, I read this the other day. I thought it was fascinating. If we were, to go back a couple thousand years and I said something to you, Marissa, and it pissed you off and you acted a weird, different way, we would call that wizardry, right? We would call that casting spells. If I were to walk up to you and say, the patriarchy is keeping you down and you're never going to get a job here, and then that shaped the way that you made decisions, we would call that a magic spell. Oh man, Marissa didn't do what she wanted to do because someone casted a spell with words on her.
Hmm.
When we boil it down to that, boil, toil, and trouble, like all those words, like when you really boil it down, it's like, it really gives you, and that I think is the joke that I felt I took from the patriarchy and the ponies and that lovely little speech at the end about, we don't even know what this thing is. It's just in our way. Versus just living in that lovely bliss where not only are things not in our way, but gravity is not even in our way in Barbie land.
And what can we learn from the weird Barbie? So there's, not to spoil too much, but I kind of loved the creativity of how they're like, oh, everyone has like the Barbie that they, drew on or cut its hair or dressed it funny. And she was kind of out in her own home away from everyone else. And they admitted that they, call her names as being the weird one. And, but I think there was something sweet in that whole storyline.
Yeah, well, I think that the weird Barbie was always, I like that she gets to be a little bit of the hero, right? This is where we go.
Mhm.
We always go to the weirdo to help us. um, and when it comes to living this dream, I think that she really shows that dream can look different in that same Barbie land. where everybody else was living in their dream house. And then there's weird Barbie in her completely different home.
Yeah, it almost makes me think of like she was almost in the upside down, or she was in the backwards world, and but she was fine where she was. I mean, I think there's something great about embracing who you are, even if that's a little strange or doesn't fit the norm of the rest of society and how everything operates.
Mm. And when you decided to make your own weird Barbie, tell me a little bit about your thought process there.
So I guess I was a little different in that it wasn't necessarily like while I was playing with Barbies, I made one, the weird artsy one. But I think after I was past the age of playing with Barbies, I still had a whole collection of them in my closet. And I think one day I was just like, what should I do with this? I don't want to throw it away. It's kind of too old to donate. And I was like, I'm just going to make it look fun. So I chopped off all her hair. I think I gave her like crazy eyeliner with a Sharpie. I don't remember what else I did, but it really looked like that, the weird Barbie in the movie. So that gave me a good laugh. So I guess I'm not that different from everyone else, where I thought, let me experiment and see what I can do to change her.
My mom actually received the very first Barbie, just to date my mom a little bit with her age. And so I was raised that these are collector items a little bit, because at that time, that Barbie had been discontinued. My mom did not have an Allen, but she did have several of the wardrobes and the clothes. And I think that's the other fun part about the movie for us, was just the nostalgia. We are that magic spell with words. That magic spell happens with toys too, and with experiences that we have. And it was just, for me, it was fun. The last movie I saw before Barbie's was Super Mario. So there's a pattern there. I think the Gen Xers, we just really would love to see more of our childhood on the big screen. And I can't recommend that movie enough either. I think, Bowser makes a really great thought leader if we want to talk about him next time.
The nostalgia is definitely huge. I got really excited when they showed, because I think my first Barbie was the astronaut Barbie. And she had these big, puffy, magenta, metallic-y shoulder pads. It was amazing. But it was kind of cool to be like, yeah, I remember that. And I don't know if that ever encouraged me to dream to be an astronaut, but it was fun.
Yeah, it's funny. I had skippers. I don't remember what my first Barbie was. That's probably a testament to I had too many. But I do remember the first ones I bought myself. And they were the 90210 clan in Barbie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was old enough to earn money, and I remember like waiting to be able to get them, because it was taking several weeks to save up to buy this like $70 collection of these guys in a box. Which perhaps is why I didn't deface them either, because these were things I had to save up my money for. What do you think of as Barbie as our HR thought leader of the week? Any tips that we can bring into the corporate world that we learned from her?
Well, as a people ops person, I would say that the Barbie movie and Barbie's character can teach us to accept variety within our community. I think while people looked different and maybe the women had different jobs, there was a lot of just like similarity between how they lived their life and what they did day to day. It was pretty routine. When Barbie had started seeing things going off and not the same as her every day, then that was kind of alarming. It just didn't seem like they had a lot of different thoughts until the end.
So from thought leadership, this makes a perfect corporation, because they don't actually differ in thoughts. They're all aligned. They all have the same agenda. That's my takeaway from this conversation. That's interesting as a thought
Yeah.
leader, though, to think about is when we want to celebrate and honor the diversity of thoughts and opinions, Mr. Patriarchy and his ponies, that there's going to be conflict, that there will be dissent. Having all the women on the Supreme Court made things very easy because they all had the same agenda to protect. They were all in their same bubble, as you talk about. And then there was
Yeah.
weird Barbie sort of over there hanging out, but there was consensus. It's an interesting, as a thought leader, Barbie's telling us to all be the same.
Well, I think that that's kind of how they were to start off, and they didn't really see it. I think if it was really well integrated, then it would be okay that Ken only wanted to beach all day, and they'd find a way to like make that valuable. And weird Barbie wouldn't live in a weird house all alone. She'd be integrated as well somehow. So I think um well, Barbie teaches us at the end to kind of follow your heart and look to yourself to find your passion. I think as a whole, the Barbie land could have done a little bit better of including everyone, even if they seemed weird or off or not valuable.
It's interesting because I also could see that from the flip side of it's okay to just honor where people are. Not putting it in the bad or the good. It just is. That was sort of my takeaway from Weird Barbies. She wasn't necessarily a chip on her shoulder because she was weird. It was just like her role that she almost wanted to fulfill. That was kind of I think a takeaway I had too, is wanting to fulfill that. So Barbie is a thought leader. Will Ferrell, as always, well done. Always love to bring him in as a thought leader. Perhaps that might be a nice one. Maybe some thought leadership from old school would be good for us on a HR podcast.
Or during the holidays, what can Elf teach us?
As we wrap up today, Marissa, if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about you and what you do, where can they go to find you?
They can go to my website. It's marissasenzaki.com. That's Marissa. Senzaki is Senzaki. I talk about my background in the recruiting and HR industry, the work I've done in startups, and you can find more about the coaching services that I offer.
Excellent. And if you're interested in learning more about OWL Podcast or the Outstanding Women Leaders Professional Coaching and the work I do in human design and gene keys, come check me out at owlprofessionalcoaching.com. If you haven't seen the movie and you're curious, highly recommend it. The soundtrack is pretty good. And we won't spoil the ending for you, so don't worry. There's still plenty to enjoy. Well done overall, I would say, in the movie department, though. I really enjoyed it.
And you can drop us a comment and let us know what you thought the movie taught you about your life.
Yes, and what your ultimate dream house